Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Thompson, Dr. Deborah Thompson. I'm a veterinarian, so an animal doctor, and I'm calling in from the US, the United States. It's a pleasure to be here. I know that there are folks from around the world in this call, and I know at least of 4 different countries represented here. I think that's really cool, and thank you so much for staying up either really late at night or getting up very early in the morning to have this lesson. So thanks everybody. Erin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Deb. So hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. As Dr. Thompson mentioned, my name is Erin. I'm the administrative intern at One Health Lessons, which is an organization that was founded by our very own Dr. Thompson. I'm from Indonesia, but I'm currently calling in from Canada, completing an undergraduate study in animal biology.
Cool. So I'm just curious here, can you raise your virtual hand or your real hand if we can see you, if you are interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, any of that? Erin, I can't see everybody. What do you see? Are we all right?
Yeah, we have hands from Ava, Savas, and Emma.
Cool. And it's totally fine if you're not interested in this. The point of this lesson is that the COVID vaccine affects everybody. It doesn't matter if you're interested in going into a profession that's related to science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. It really is because you're a human being on this planet, and this is important. So let's talk about the story behind the vaccine today. Now, as I mentioned before, there is, this is a bit of a competition throughout the entire lesson. You're welcome to take notes. There is absolutely no cheating if you take notes. It's totally allowed. And there's a more formal contest at the end. And Erin has volunteered to become scorekeeper, as well as helping me call on people because they can't see everybody right now on the screen. So in the last lesson, I know some of you have reviewed it recently, some haven't, so we'll just go through this quickly. In the last lesson, there were 5 vocabulary words that were described. One health. One health can be described in 2 ways, a concept and an approach. The One Health concept is the connection between our health, human health, right? And the health of the environment, animals, and plants. So what do I mean by the environment? I really mean your surroundings. I don't necessarily mean the tree that's all the way over there, because I'm not in that environment. I'm talking about if I'm in the forest, then that would be my environment. The environment means the water near you in your community. It means the air that you're breathing, right? It means the soil you are stepping on. It means so many things. So again, One Health concept is that connection between our health and the health of the environment, animals, and plants. And that's the way One Health goes. Species. Now, can anybody guess like how, or can somebody try, pretend I'm 6 years old. How would you explain species to a 6-year-old? Any guesses? And 1 point for this. First question of the lesson. So the way I explain it, oh, Emma? Yeah, go for it.
I guess the different types of animals that you see in the world.
Animals or plants, right?
Yeah,
There's
plants.
Trees and there's, yeah. So the way I say it is for little kids, right? I say, okay, cats and dogs, they're different species because 2 cats can make babies and make kittens. 2 dogs can make puppies, but a cat and a dog can't make babies together. And that's how I explain species to a little kid. Zoonotic disease. Has anybody heard this term before?
Yes, it's a disease that can spread from different species.
Perfect, including?
Animals or like different animals to humans, also different vectors to humans, like mosquito would be an example.
Yeah. So any germ that can jump between different species, including people, is considered a zoonotic disease. Thanks, Ava. Mutation. The simplest way you can explain mutation to even like a 4-year-old is change. Mutation means change. Mutations can strengthen something, it can weaken something, or it can just change it nebulously. It's not a big deal. So a mutation can strengthen a virus, it can weaken a virus, or it can just change it and we don't care that it's changed. Vaccine. Can somebody tell me what is a vaccine and what's the difference between a vaccine and a medication? And guesses are fine, totally fair.
Savas?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out how to point out my virtual hand. I'm still working on the platform. Anyways, well, vaccine, I think it's like a weakened version of the antigen you want to put inside your body. And and what was the other question? Can you repeat it?
What's the difference between a vaccine and a medication?
Well, yeah, we use vaccines to prevent, well, to like create a sort of like to prepare the defense of the body. Like it's more for preparation purposes, but medication is actually used when you want to cure something that's already infected and already has some issues.
Yeah, I like that difference. So let's say it one more time. So the difference between a vaccine and a medication. A medication you get after you're already sick, after that germ has already made you really sick. A vaccine is meant to strengthen your immune system, right? It's meant to strengthen your body to fight a germ coming your way. That's often, I'm not going to go into the weeds and talk about this very itty bitty specifics because sometimes there are exceptions, but that's the general concept. Now, the way vaccines, some vaccines are designed against viruses, some vaccines are designed against bacteria, and on and on and on. So we're going to be talking about vaccines and we're going to be talking about the immune system very shortly. But first, I talked about the One Health concept before for 2 points. Who can tell me what the One Health concept is?
The connection between human, animal, and the environment, environmental health.
Perfect. Now, this is one word that I'm going to be asking you later on. What is the one word to describe the One Health approach? Put simply, it's teamwork. It's people of different backgrounds, different disciplines, different strengths, and we come together and we prevent and solve health problems. So I'll be asking you this question later on. Okay, so like I said before, a mutation is a change, right? It's a change of behavior or development of something. So just like this flower had one petal that's totally different than everything else, there's a mutation there. This kitten has many, many, many toes. That's a mutation. So who and what gets vaccines? People certainly can, as we all know. Animals can, and plants actually can get injected with something to help protect them against certain germs coming their way. Super interesting stuff. So just Google or look online for plants and immune systems, and you'll get a whole slew of really fascinating information. But moving on, let's talk about what we will be talking about today. The immune system, mRNA, proteins, and translation. Does anybody know what mRNA stands for? And I'm not going to write. What does the M stand for? How's that?
Savas?
It could be like a really bad idea. Messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Great idea. That is totally the answer. Good job.
Yeah, because I haven't learned them like formally in my country. It's going to be on the 12th grade, and I'm on the 11th. So yeah.
Well, that was an excellent guess for sure. Okay, so before we get into these topics, right, let's talk about this woman who has changed the future of the planet. This woman has been studying mRNA and became fascinated about mRNA back in the 1970s, 50 years ago. She's from Eastern Europe in Hungary, that's indicated here on this map. And she first studied biology. in her undergraduate degree, meaning her bachelor's degree. So she studied biology. Oh, quick question. If you were explaining biology to a 6-year-old, how would you do it? Hard question. Hard question. The way we tend to do it is biology is the study of living things. It's just super generic. No need to like dive into the details. Okay, but then Dr. Carrico became a biochemist in graduate school. So questions for you, what is a biochemist? And what can a biochemist contribute to medicine and help the world? Any ideas? What is a biochemist?
Savas again?
Well, yes, I think that again, I'm going to answer with my country standards, so it could be wrong. Well, I think that he also like really works with medicine, because medicine are like chemical compounds, and she actually like works with this stuff, like, and checks how they affect biological structures. That's what I could say.
Yeah, so they can certainly work in medicine. That's totally true. They can help develop medications, they can help develop vaccines, but biochemists can be anywhere. They could be working with engineers in water health and make sure that there are no toxins or chemicals in the environment. Like biochemists can be everywhere, because biochemists study the chemistry that makes living things tick, like that makes living things function. So I think that's pretty cool. I actually started off as a biochemistry major in undergrad, but then I changed it to biology. You don't need to know about me. Let's talk about Dr. Carrico. So what can a biochemist contribute to medicine and help the world? Creating medications from scratch, creating vaccines, creating a lot. So in your opinion, by the way, Erin, 2 points for Savas for helping with those 2 questions. So 2 points for this next question. What is an important characteristic of a successful scientist or engineer? Totally based on your opinion.
Emma?
I feel that, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, Ava and then Emma, I think. Ava?
I was going to say that it's someone who can be creative and work in interdisciplinary fields with a variety of people.
Nice. There's a lot there. I like it. Emma?
I was going to say something similar. So someone who can think outside the box and think of different ways to solve a problem.
Awesome. Any other adjectives or descriptions?
Savas?
Well, here's the thing, and I just like discussed about it like a couple of days ago. Well, many of my teachers consider a good scientist a scientist that also follows ethics. They say that it's highly important, even more important than the science he does sometimes. I disagree with them like some of the times, but yeah, it's also like an important factor.
Yeah, ethics are incredibly important during research and everything. Let's see what she has to say when she describes her team. And let's figure out what's the adjective, what's the descriptor that she uses.
I have a team at the biotech to be, curious and not walk like, oh, this is always like that, but why is that? Yeah, that kind of thing. So I was, curious and I had very good teachers in Hungary.
So what was the word that kept coming back in that video? Ava?
Was it curious?
Yeah, curious. So how else are we going to advance science? How else are we going to solve problems if we don't understand the root of the problem, right? Or we don't understand why something's happening. So always asking why. I know some teachers may not like it because it pushes them It pushes anybody who has that why question. But if we really want to advance science and we want to advance the chance of sustainable efforts on this planet, we need to ask why, understand why certain things happen, and then find the solutions to those. And you can't do it alone. You have to have that One Health approach because the world is a bit complicated. Let's move on. What is the immune system? The way we describe the immune system is that it's in a lot of different things. It's within a body. It's something that you can't see, okay? You can't see the players of the immune system like the white blood cells. You need to use a microscope for that. But the immune system is inside of animals, it's inside of people, and there is something like an immune system with plants. And if you just think of it like a pest going to a tree and the tree trying to defend itself against that pest, well, why? I mean, that's a really interesting search online for why that happens. But the really simplistic way to explain what the immune system is the part of a body that fights anything recognized as strange. So say for instance, you get a germ and the body's like, wait a second, that thing is foreign. That thing is not originally from here. We need to address this. We have to protect the rest of the body, and then the white blood cells go and take care of it, hopefully, if the immune system works well. So the immune system is the defense against germs in your body. And I mentioned white blood cells earlier. So the way to actually see white blood cells is by taking some blood, for instance, or taking a sample with a needle of an area that's really swollen in a person or an animal. Take a sample of the area that's swollen and hot and red, showing signs of inflammation. And you take a sample by sucking out some cells with a little needle and syringe, and then you put that material on a glass slide. But the thing is, it's very hard to see these cells if you don't stain it. You have to dry the slide, and then you have to put it into stain. As you can see, they're now a purple color, as in like right here, here, here. And the way I could get this photo, this is a photo of a patient of mine, of a cat patient. And this is actually one type of cell over and over and over again. Unfortunately, this cat had lymphoma. It's a type of cancer. And I knew that because after I took a sample from this cat and I saw these cells repeat over and over and over again. Lymphoma has a lot of lymphocytes. Lymphocyte is a type of white blood cell, and this is what I was seeing over and over and over again. But the way I knew that is I took a sample from the cat, I stained the slide, I put the slide in stain, and then I looked under the microscope, and this is what I saw. Okay, so any type of doctor or nurse who works in the clinics, in the hospitals, they often work with the microscope in order to help diagnose different conditions. Now, if this was, instead of cancer, say, if this was inflammation, then you would see a lot of different types of white blood cells on the slide. Okay, so that's just one way that we as doctors, physicians, veterinarians, nurses, all of us technicians, we can identify what is going on in the body. We look at the white blood cells, but we have to use the microscope. And we can also get blood counts by doing blood tests with fancy machinery. Okay, so let's see if we can act kind of like the immune system. And remember that there's memory with this immune system. That's the whole point of the vaccines. The vaccine shows the body something out of the ordinary. The body's like, whoa, that's weird. Let's attack, attack, attack. And then later on, if the body, the person or the animal, encounters a germ in real life, then the body will be like, wait a second, I've seen this before. Attack, 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 survival. You see what I mean? But we have to have that memory built up. So let's practice and see if you remember certain things. And I'm going to be bringing this up very shortly, but I want you to also practice the differences. Check the differences. On the left side of the screen, I'm going to show you a normal picture. And on the right side of the screen, there's going to be some changes. Find at least 3 differences in 10 seconds. So let's see if you could practice that. And Erin, you can monitor the chat box and everybody can answer. The person who gets those 3 differences first will get 5 points. Ready, set, go. Okay, 10 seconds are up. What do you see in the chat box, Erin?
So Emma and Leandra says the music notes on the right have an outline.
Nice.
And Emma
Okay.
also says the left image has a bit of a table showing.
Yes. Excellent.
And Dinda says position of the spider.
Yeah.
Leandra says lines in sunshine. And then Emma says the left is a bit warmer colored.
Holy moly. Okay. How do we put these points out there? Let's give those, let's break up those 5 points, 2 for the first response and then 1 for all the other responses. That way we can break up those 5. Yeah, let's review. Wow, nobody before caught that. So well done there. There's a little snippet of a table up here. Good job. Okay, the sun has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points here. The musical notes, the position of the spider, the amount of grass compared to here and here, and then the color shift. Well done. Find the single difference. You got 10 seconds. For 3 points. Did anybody get it? There is a difference. I promise you. You're going to kick yourself when you see it. I'll give you 5 more seconds. Once I point it out to you, you will not unsee it. Okay. Check that out. Right? It can't be unseen. Okay, so this is clearly a picture of a key with a lot of nuances there. If you change the key, does it stop opening up doors or does it open all the doors or what happens? What happens when there's a mutation? What happens when there's a change on that key? Any ideas? What could happen? And feel free to speak out loud.
It won't open the same door.
Yeah, ooh, I like that. It could open a different door. Yeah, good point. Any other ideas? Or it could stop working altogether, right? Or it can open up all the doors and become a master key. We don't know, but mutations happen, changes happen all throughout nature. And we're going to talk about mutations with the virus a little bit later on. But this is where I wanted to talk about memory and test your memory. Okay, 2 points for the first answer. What is One Health? I'll accept either the concept or the approach.
Ava?
The interconnection between human, animal, and environmental health.
Snaps. Good. So was that the approach or the concept?
That's the concept.
Perfect. Can somebody tell me for 1 point, what is the One Health approach? You can just use one word if you want.
Teamwork.
Perfect. Okay, so Ava just got 3 points in that one question. Moving on. For 4 points, name 2 changes seen in the first find the differences activity.
Emma?
The outline around the music notes and the table, I guess.
Table. Yes. Good job. Good job. Okay, so for 4 points, what is the difference between a vaccine and a medication?
Sava.
You get the vaccine before you get sick. You get the medication after you get sick.
Awesome. Okay, moving on. What is a protein? The easiest way to explain a protein is really, really small. It's a structure that can be inside or on a cell or virus, and it has a function. That's the important thing. It has a function. So, you know, when people say, oh, eat your meat because it has protein, for instance, it's because meat is muscle. That's what meat is. It's muscle, and muscle is full of protein. Now, proteins can be inside of a cell and help send signals from one place to another, can help build certain parts of the cell, or proteins can be on the outside of the cell, like for instance, the spike protein here. Okay, this is a very simplistic model, clearly, but this spike protein acts like a key. What do I mean by that? It means the spike protein is a part of the virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, that's responsible for being able to enter into a human cell or an animal cell. That's really important because what happens if there's a mutation? And we'll talk about that later. So other examples of proteins, does anybody know? Besides the spike protein on the coronavirus, on the novel coronavirus, any other examples of proteins? It's okay if not. How about antibodies, antigens, insulin, collagen? Where's collagen? Like here, here. And of course the spike protein. So a way to remember where antibodies and antigens come from, this is the way I remembered it when I first learned it. An antibody comes from the body. Antibodies are good. We like antibodies. That means that your immune system is often working well. Antigen comes from the problem, comes from the invader. You may or may not have heard of the word pathogen. Just think of it like a germ. But an antigen is associated with a pathogen. An antibody comes from your body. It's an easier way to remember it. And they're both examples of proteins. Okay, so moving on, you may or may not remember from the previous lesson, but there are 2 parts of a virus, making it very simple. There's that inside core and there's that outer shell. We're talking about the outer shell that's responsible for the infection. It's responsible for allowing the virus to get into a cell. And by now, everybody knows what a cell is, yeah? I should have asked, yeah. Okay, I figured at this age, everybody knows. So it's that outside of the virus that's really responsible for getting to enter into a cell. Now, what's on the outside there? I just said it, it's the spike protein. And think of it like a key. It unlocks the cell. It allows the virus to enter. Now, how do you even start to build a protein? Proteins don't just appear out of nowhere. Proteins are built. Built by what? Built by cells. So they have to follow instructions, just like building a bookcase, okay? You have to follow directions or else you'll have like one board pointing here, one board pointing here, and the bookshelf would not work, okay? proteins have functions. Remember that proteins have functions. They can help with transmitting signals from one cell to the other. They could be helpful to help create structure within the cell so that the cell does not completely collapse. They do a lot of important things. Pretty much proteins help cells survive, okay, and function and have a purpose. So proteins are very important. And mRNA or messenger RNA is the instruction to build a protein. Now, certainly let's keep it very broad and leave it like that. If you go into biology textbooks, then you're going to learn about a lot more, but let's just keep it nice and broad for this conversation. mRNA, and I'm going to be asking you this, what is mRNA or messenger RNA? It's the instructions to build a protein. Okay. Now, what is translation? Is that process of building it. So you start off with mRNA, messenger RNA, you read the instructions, and then over time you build the protein. That over time bit is called translation. Any questions so far? Good. Because this will come up over and over again, so I want to make sure people understand it. Sometimes, though, those instructions, like messenger RNA, for instance, sometimes there are changes there. Sometimes there is an issue with the process of developing proteins. Sometimes the instructions are not read the way they should be, and there's mutations that develop. Now, those could be developing unexpectedly too. So I need one volunteer for 5 points. Who wants to volunteer? It's not scary, I promise you. Okay, Ava, thank you. Okay, remember that mutations can happen when there are changes in instructions. So here's the thing. I'm going to describe something completely off camera, and then I want you to imitate me with what I'm explaining. I'll go first, and then Ava can go. Okay, everybody put your hands together and have your thumbs pointing to the ceiling. And then have your second finger pointing down and your fifth finger on your left hand pointing out to the side. Okay, let's see what you got. I got this. What did people get? I see a lot of confused faces. Okay, so my instructions were not very good. Fine. Maybe Ava, you can do better. So there were a lot of mutations in my example. Let's see if Ava can avoid those mutations and have some clear instructions there. Ava, you want to go ahead? We just should not be able to see your hands when you do it.
Okay. Everyone interlock their fingers, but move their thumbs towards the ceiling and move their fifth finger towards the ground.
Okay, we good?
Yes.
Can you move up a little bit, Ava? I can't see. Oh, that was pretty good. Well done. Well, awesome. So I had plenty of mutations. Ava barely had any. I think everybody's was pretty identical. Awesome job. Thank you for being a volunteer. So now we know what proteins do. What do they do for 2 points? Like, give me an example. Why are proteins important?
Ava and then Savas.
They have functions, so they do different things for the cell.
Yeah, So 2 points for you, and then Savas for 1 point. Do you have an example of what they can do?
What they can do, I think that they could provide energy.
Ooh, okay. I think you might be talking about ATP. Adenosine, it doesn't matter. I think it is definitely involved in the process of making energy. So yeah, that's a really good idea. Okay, you know what mRNA is. What is it? What is mRNA? For 2 points.
Savas?
The instructions of building a protein.
Awesome. Okay, so Dr. Krico, she understood if you could harness the ability to create mRNA, you then can change how life happens. Like it is mind-blowing, because really, if you change mRNA, you can change proteins. You can have proteins do and function a certain way that you want them to do. So she recognized back in the 1970s, this is 50 years ago, that mRNA is really important. So she applies for grants. There was one time when 7 people applied for 6 grants. Okay, when I say grants, I mean money, sources of money. And there were 6 people who got the money, and she was the 7th. She was rejected. She was the 7th. And it's mind-boggling to think that so many people rejected her and rejected this idea. And the way it works in research, this is important for you to know, because you're eventually, hopefully, going to be going to university or college, and then, maybe even considering research, because I know some of you are interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So in a research lab, the way it typically goes is that in academia, so at university settings, there's a hierarchy, okay? And if you are not the very top, called the principal investigator, the person who is the most senior, oftentimes, then you have a boss. Then you have to listen to the instructions. Then you have to be told what to do. Like you have limited control, okay? The problem is that if your principal investigator of your research group leaves, then you're kind of left without much guidance. And then it's your responsibility to try to find extra funding to help your research. And that can be really difficult. And if you're not successful in finding that source of income, then you can become demoted, which is the opposite of promoted. So that's what happened to her. She was at University of Pennsylvania. She moved from Hungary to United States in the 1980s. She moved her child and her husband there, which is absolutely incredible. During that time, it's usually not the woman who's, moving the family, but she was really a forward thinker, and it sounded like her family was supportive, which is great. So she moves across the world, and she's at this university, and then her boss leaves, leaving her in the lurch, which is really quite difficult. But the thing is, she didn't forget about her passion, and she knew what mRNA can do. She knew that, actually, can you tell me, why would a scientist focus on mRNA? I kind of touched upon it before.
Ava?
It's key in making vaccines.
Now it is. But before, it was not a thing. But what does mRNA do?
It's the instructions.
For
Proteins.
proteins, and proteins are so important in biology. So that's why she would be wanting to focus on that. So one day she's at University of Pennsylvania and she's at a photocopy machine room and she strikes up a conversation with another person, and that person's name is Dr. Wiseman. She introduces herself and she says that she is passionate about mRNA research, and she ended up hearing from him that he agrees that what she's doing is really important. And ultimately they end up working together. They start a company and they further their research with a lot of bumps along the road, but I'm not going to dive into that. But she met somebody who agreed, this is really important stuff. Now, since then, mRNA research has been used to fight cancer, like melanoma. Melanoma is a cancer in oftentimes the skin. It can happen in other places, but oftentimes the skin. It can be seen in people. It can be seen in animals. It can be seen as an option for new medications. And it could be used to create vaccines. And this is like astronomically important when it comes to 2021, 2020, 2022. Something that is worth mentioning. One of the reasons why she was rejected so many times when she was trying to get mRNA research out there is because mRNA is often single-stranded. It's just like one delicate line. Okay, line of stuff. Don't bother with knowing the stuff. It's not important for right now. One delicate line. It's so delicate that if that mRNA is put in a certain temperature, like a warmer temperature than other types of vaccines, it can disintegrate. It can stop working. So back in the 1970s, 1980s, there's something called cold chain. Cold chain is a type of technology that's responsible for keeping certain items very cold. At that time, 1970s, 1980s, cold chain was not where it is today. Cold chain exists today because of efforts in engineering and physics and lots of other type of professions working towards the same goal. So now we're in what, 2021, pretty much 2022. Now we have cold chain technology at a fairly reasonable state. And now we have mRNA research at a fairly reasonable state. That means now we can have vaccines be kept in a cold environment and brought to different places around the planet. But of course, there are caveats, and we'll talk about that soon. So mRNA work in 2020 is totally different now compared to where it was decades ago. Now, a question for you. We're talking about proteins, we're talking about mRNA. Out of all of the proteins with this novel coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, why would scientists want to focus on the spike protein? Any ideas?
Eva?
Because the spike protein is what causes the mutations.
Ooh, mutations can actually happen in any part of a virus or thing. Come to think of it, mutations happen whenever there's replication of something. Wait, let me rephrase this. Mutations can happen whenever there's mutation. Mutations can happen whenever there's replication. Okay, whenever you make more copies of yourself, you can have a chance of mutating, of changing. That's what I want to say. Let me say it one more time to make sure there's no confusion. Every time there's a copy made of something, there's a chance that there could be a mutation in that copy. Okay, so what is the spike protein comparing to? What we said before is like a key. A spike protein is the thing that enters into a cell. So scientists thought at the very start of this pandemic that the chance of it mutating is pretty low, because why would a virus want to mutate the one thing that will allow it to enter into a cell. You see what I mean? Do you remember that second differences activity where there was a key and then there was a like little itty bitty extra green spot? You remember that? And I was asking you, well, how does that change getting into a door, right? So scientists originally thought, okay, well, we should focus on the spike protein. It's probably the most stable part of all of the virus, so it's not going to be changing as much. That's the thought. The other thing that's important to know about is the way the body works. Antibodies occur when there's something foreign that comes into the body. So something strange is seen in the body. The body is like, wait a second, this is weird. Let's attack. Antibodies are a type of protein coming from the body, as we had said, that help with that attacking process. Now, antibodies can bind to certain things, including like the spike protein. So think of it like clay, okay? You have a key and somebody puts clay on your key. It's not going to work, right? It's not going to open up the door. So that's one of the reasons why scientists are like, okay, every type of this virus, SARS-CoV-2, has a spike protein. We know that. We know that spike proteins are necessary to enter into cells. So let's focus on that. Let's stop the virus from entering into cells. That's really, really, really important because there are two steps for having somebody be sick, either an animal or a person with this virus. Number one, the virus has to enter into the body. Number two, once it's in the body, it has to enter into a cell. Those are two big steps. How can we prevent the virus from entering into our bodies? Any ideas? How do we stop a virus from getting into us?
Wearing masks.
Wearing masks, perfect. What else?
I think Savas had his hand up too.
Well, yeah, I would say generally we prevent it from entering with different methods. Yeah, like masks, whatever, like washing our hands.
Perfect. Yeah, washing your hands for at least 20 seconds, right? Don't touch your eyes, your nose, your mouth if you have dirty hands, right? It's as simple as that. But keep in mind, a vaccine is not going to put a shield around somebody. You are not invincible if you're walking around and you're vaccinated. But a vaccine will help you if the virus is already inside you, because it helps get in the way of a virus entering into your cells. Does that make sense so far? Yes, no? I'm happy to repeat or say it a different way. Make sense? Okay. So what does the mRNA virus, what does the mRNA vaccine actually do? It trains your immune system to look specifically for that spike protein. Because what I said before, that spike protein is on all types of novel coronaviruses, the SARS-CoV-2. But it mutates a bit, and we will talk about that very soon. The other type of COVID vaccine that's important to know about is called an adenovirus vaccine. What on earth does that mean? Let's compare and contrast. So you see these little squiggles in the shot here in the vaccine? That's single-stranded. That's an mRNA strand. Now let's go forward. This is double-stranded. What scientists have done is that they changed one area of this double-stranded bit, and eventually that one area is going to make the mRNA, the messenger RNA. And then from there is the same process as the messenger RNA vaccine inside the body. So it just takes extra steps. Why would a scientist want to have these extra steps? What's the benefit? How do you compare and contrast this type of vaccine versus the mRNA vaccine? Now, granted, the mRNA vaccine was able to become used. It was used in the world faster than this other type of vaccine. So it can be made faster, which is good. But what is the benefit of this double strand here? Do you remember when I said that mRNA is very delicate? If it's double-stranded, it's a lot more stable in warmer environments. So certainly on this planet, there are areas of the world that cannot receive, that, let's say, do not have the same level of technological capabilities as other areas of the world. That's the way it is right now. So what can we do? We can ensure that the certain areas of the world that are warmer or that don't have the capability of ensuring cold chain, to ensure that the vaccine is staying nice and cold through cold chain measures, that those communities have access to another vaccine that works pretty much just as well as the others, because look, it's just extra steps and then it makes the exact same mRNA, right? The only difference is that the other one puts this in the vaccine, but this is more delicate. So this can more easily be sent to certain areas of the world. Whereas this, think about the deserts. Think about areas that are very, very, very far from cities where there's a lot of technology. So that's the difference. But what's the similarity? They both eventually lead to mRNA. And what does this mRNA lead to? We said mRNA is instructions for a protein. What type of protein are we targeting?
Savas?
Yeah, the spike protein.
Spike protein. We got it. Okay, so what's the goal of vaccines? It's really to strengthen your immune system. But question for you, and we kind of touched upon this before, will vaccines alone stop the pandemic? For 2 points. I see Emma saying no. Why? The answer is no. But why? What more do we need to do? Emma, if you want those 2 points, feel free to shout it out.
Okay, so we need to actually take physical preventions, like from spreading the actual virus through like coughing or sneezing. So that includes wearing masks. And to also reduce the transmission, so through washing hands, sanitizing, stuff like that.
Nice. Yep. We have to stop the virus from spreading and replicating in new people. Do you remember when I say if a virus replicates, what can happen? Every time a virus replicates, what can happen?
Ava?
Mutation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a real problem. That's really bad. But keep in mind, the only time a virus can replicate is if it's inside of a cell. A virus is, a virus could be floating around. It's not going to replicate in midair. It needs a cell to replicate. So again, it's those 2 steps. We have to stop it from getting into people, and then we have to stop it from getting into cells. Okay, so let's watch this video together, and I want to hear from you. Is there anything surprising that you see? Is there anything that is worth remembering? Please share your thoughts.
Cells. Mutations are random errors. But the longer a virus is around and the more people it infects, more it will change. And the more those changes accumulate, the more chances the virus has to evolve into something more dangerous. These 4 variants, considered variants of concern by the World Health Organization, all have mutations on the spike protein. Delta, the most recent addition to this list, has been referred to as a double mutant, because while it has many different mutations, it has 2 significant ones we've seen before. This mutation seems to make the virus more transmissible. And a version of this one, found in 2 other variants, makes it easier for the virus to reinfect people who have already had COVID-19. Meaning these 2 mutations may have evolved to dodge our natural immune response. Fortunately, the immune response we get from vaccines is much stronger than our body's natural immune response. So while we may see variants that make our vaccines somewhat less effective, most experts think it's unlikely one will emerge that completely evades our vaccines. But that doesn't mean it can't happen.
If you give the virus enough time and replicative cycles, it will sample a very large evolutionary space and find a solution to the problem we presented it, which is vaccination and widespread immunity.
But even if SARS-CoV-2 doesn't get to that point, as long as the pandemic continues, and as long as the virus continues to spread, it will continue to make copies of itself. So if we want to stop the variants, we need to stop the virus.
Okay, so one thing I just want to say is that since this video was created, there's been more research to try to figure out what's stronger for an immune response. Is it vaccines or is it natural infection? At this point, I think the jury is still out. We're not completely clear, but I know, at least for me, hey, I would much rather have a vaccine than the real thing. Like, if I am fortunate enough to have, the choice, because there are many, many, many people on the planet that don't yet have the choice because of various issues. Yeah, I would much rather have a vaccine than to get the real thing. But that's me. So anything that you thought was interesting, anything surprising, any comments from that video?
Savas?
Nothing surprising for me. I already knew what it said, but it's real important for people in my country to understand these things, and especially, I would say, teenagers, because right now the virus is like transmitted almost like uniquely by this specific age. And yeah, I had an example, like in the previous school I was, like, it's almost going to close alone because it has 20 active cases right now of COVID among students. And it's a school of like 300 students. So just imagine, and they can't understand it because they think that they are protected because they're young. Okay, they're protected because their parents have done a vaccine, but they can't understand that as long as it's transmitted, like, it can become really dangerous.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anybody else? Yeah, certainly we come from all different areas of the world in this one classroom right here.
So
really
Sorry, Emma has her hand up.
Oh, yes, please. Emma.
Okay, I guess for me, since I'm not a bio student, it never really hit me that the mutations occurred because it spreads even more. So I think that information in general, like if it were to be more widespread, I think it'll be helpful in actually convincing people to wear masks, because sometimes people just point the blame of mutations elsewhere, but really it's just because it spreads a lot.
Yeah, and just like what the man said near the end of the video, it's like, well, as long as you leave it for enough time to pass, and enough cells, human or animal cells, to become infected, of course, over replicative cycles, he said, as many times as there are copies, there's increased risk of mutations. But keep in mind, mutations can strengthen something and can weaken something. Like SARS-CoV-1, back probably before you guys were born, scientists think that it mutated out, like it mutated to such a weakened state that it wasn't a big deal anymore. So, this happens. Mutations happen in nature. It's just the way it goes. So what are those 2 steps for making people sick? The virus has to get into the body, and then it has to get into the cells. So we talked about this before, is human health and environmental health. Make sure that the environment is as clean as possible for you. So how do you do that? And we covered all these items before. So one health concept is that connection between our health and the health of the environment, animals, and plants. Does anybody remember the forest example from the last class? And if so, why do I say here we need to protect nature to reverse habitat loss? Does anybody remember that forest example? Erin, do you remember it? Can you share, please?
Sure, yeah. So in that forest example in the first lesson, when humans started sort of like coming into the animals' habitat, so the environment, and they started cutting down trees, then the animals basically started losing their homes. And because of that, they move out of their natural habitat and they move closer to humans. And that is not the best idea because animals sometimes they carry these zoonotic disease that they can spread to us, or we have disease that we can spread to them.
Yeah, so the way people for a very long time now have been treating the environment is just set up a situation where animals have to, if they want to survive, they have to be in places that can increase their stress levels. Like they have to look for food and shelter in cities, whereas it's not natural for that, right? But keep in mind, whenever there are species, including people and other animals, that don't belong near each other, that can be a big problem for lots of different reasons. So scientists, engineers, a lot of people work together to make vaccines, and they help bring those vaccines out to the general public. Think about who can bring these vaccines out there. Who's actually needed? It's a big group of people. And then what other type of people can help protect everybody, protect people, animals, plants, and the environment in the future? 2 points for this question. What other type of people?
Ava?
Yeah, I think there could be a lot of answers to this question, but I think that especially young people right now, raising awareness on One Health topics to really educate the upcoming generation about how we all have to work together to help protect all these groups.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is everybody, regardless of your age. Yeah, but particularly the motivated young generation. I agree with you. Okay, so some just general questions. How do you think Dr. Carrico would answer this question? What would you say now to people who once rejected and made fun of you? Any ideas before we see her answer? Well, let's see her answer.
I wish to tell some of those people that who put down me and ridiculed me and whatnot to see that, you see, but that's okay. You know, I am happy that the two leading mRNA vaccine, actually the Moderna and the BioNTech Pfizer product, both of them is including something that I contributed. So it makes me happy. Even other people will not know because, Moderna usually say that they discovered everything, but they did pay for that patent. And so.
What do you think of that answer? Any thoughts come to mind? Emma? Any thoughts?
I think it's a good answer. She's like, haha, see?
Yeah. Well, let's see what she would answer to this. Do you think you will win the Nobel Prize? And that's one of the most prestigious awards for any scientist. Okay, let's see if she thinks she will win the Nobel Prize.
People started to see the potential.
And now they're talking about a Nobel Prize. How does that make you feel? I don't think about that I will get it. It is like I focused always on the work, and that's what excites me.
What do you think of that answer?
Savas?
I mean, that's the whole point of science. I think that a successful scientist does not do all the things for the prestige. He does the things just because he likes them and he's curious. And that's the way you succeed. You can just go for like the admiration of the world. You will eventually fail because you will not have the interest on the subject you're working with.
That. Yeah, he or she is curious. Like, never lose that curiosity, right? Totally agree. So if you're up for it, let's do contest now. This is like the more official contest. Erin, where are we at for points, just to set the stage?
So Dinda has 1, Leandra has 3, and then Emma has 11, Sanvas has 13, and Ava has 14 points.
Really close.
Super
Okay,
close.
anybody can win because this contest, let's ignore the team members since we're a smaller team than usual. Yeah, this is really anybody's game because there's some big points coming up. Let's start small with 3 points. Question 1, and let's just shout it out, okay? What is a biochemist?
Someone who works to understand the chemistry behind living things.
Nice. Good. 3 points to Ava. Next question, 5 points. Name 5 people who would be involved in developing and bringing a safe vaccine out to the general public. I see Savas's hand.
Yes. Okay, I will try to find them out right now. So first of all, it's the researcher, of course. Second of all, are going to be like, I don't know if they did it, are like the volunteers that want to take the shot at first. Of course, it will be the the delivery boys, the guys that bring the vaccine to the stores, whatever. The doctors that do the vaccine, and 5, too many. Oh yeah, the politics that try to promote a certain vaccine in their country. Yeah.
Done. That's a hard question. That's why it was worth 5 points. Great. Any other ideas? So we said researchers. Researchers can be like all sorts of people, right? We're talking about biochemists. We're talking about veterinarians. Why would veterinarians be a part of this? Any ideas? So before you start, oh, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, especially when talking about One Health or talking about zoonotic diseases, diseases like that affect animals as well. So veterinarians need to have a say and understand, especially when dealing with vaccines for zoonotic diseases.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Veterinarians are on the front lines because if we're treating a patient, an animal patient, we have to make sure that we protect ourselves and our families and our communities. So veterinarians are really well informed on zoonotic diseases for sure. But think about in the process of developing a vaccine, later on in development, we test with volunteers, with people, like what Savas was saying. But before that happens, then you test with animals. And so lab animals are taken care of by veterinarians. So that's just one of many examples. Okay, now it's 2 points. Okay, I'm giving your head a little bit of a rest. 2 points. What is the one word to describe the One Health approach?
Teamwork.
Nice, Ava, 2 points there. 5 points, we're getting more complicated. What is the difference between an antibody and an antigen?
Savas?
Okay, an antibody is like any structure created by the body to fight a foreign, substance that gets in, I think. Yeah, and the antigen is actually that foreign substance that enters the body. It needs to be exterminated.
Close. I'll give you 1 point for trying it. I appreciate that. Close.
Oh, how did it go so wrong? What did they?
No, let's go through it. Yeah. So antibodies and antigens, they're both proteins. Yeah. So antigen is a part of that foreign material. It's not the whole germ. And antibodies are part of the immune system. So antibodies is a protein. Antigen is a protein. So that's why I'm giving you those points. But what you were saying, Savas, was right in that an antigen is associated with that invader. It's associated with that, but it's not the entire invader. It's just like the signal that the body picks up and says like, oh my gosh, this is foreign. Does that make sense? Kind of.
So it's just weird because I thought the antigen was, for example, bacteria, viruses are antigens.
It's on the bacteria. It's on the virus. So it's like a portion.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I will have to check my biology book because I think that, I don't know, I'm kind of confused right now because I had it as a lesson for like, anyways, for 2 days ago. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the antigen that's associated with that pathogen, with that odd invader, right? That's stimulating the immune system to be like, holy cow, there's something weird here. And then the immune system's like sending out these antibodies to then combine with the antigens. But I don't need to go into more specific details because it gets quite complicated quite fast. But yes.
Okay. I'll need to see it again.
Yeah, of course. 5 points for the next question. Okay, antibodies and antigens are examples of what?
Proteins.
Proteins, thank you. Next question, 5 points. What is the process, I want one word, for making a protein?
It is translation.
Translation, who said that? Who was that?
Leandra.
Yeah, nice job, Leandra, thank you, 5 points. 3 points now. Where was Dr. Carrico born? Who was paying attention?
Savas.
Hungary?
Hungary, yeah, nice job. Okay, and she came from a really small town, by the way, a really small town. Her mother was a bookkeeper and her father was a butcher. Okay, 8 points, okay. This, we need to go through the situation. Back in November of 2020, this image was on the television screen and it was talking about the trials, okay, the human trials for the vaccine before it actually went out to the general public. Thousands of people were involved in this trial. 95 participants out of all of these thousands of people actually got COVID or came up positive for SARS-CoV-2. Now, 90 were on placebo, 5 were on the vaccine. How could people who are vaccinated still get COVID, still get the disease, still get sick?
Eva.
Because vaccines are not invincible, or you are not invincible with the vaccine. There's still room for error there, and it's not always going to work 100% and protect you 100% of the time.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't help 100% of people 100% of the time, but you're right, it doesn't make you invincible. Yeah, so nothing's going to put a shield around you besides a shield. Think of it like that. Okay, so 2-part question. Can a vaccine alone end the pandemic? And explain your answer, why or why not. Who wants those 6 points?
Emma?
Emma?
No, it can't alone end the pandemic because, like Eva just said, even though it can kind of help you recover from the vaccine, but it doesn't make you it doesn't make you fully words. It doesn't fully make you not get the vaccine. So in order to actually stop the pandemic, you have to stop the transmission and stop it from spreading and mutating into other people. So you have to wear masks to prevent spreading of the virus, and you have to sanitize your hands, don't touch your face, sanitize objects you use, etc.
Yeah, Nice. All 6 points go to you, Emma. Great job. 10 points. Oh, this is going to be a doozy. Okay, ready for it? How can the One Health approach help prevent a pandemic?
Oh, Dinda.
Because there is teamwork of people from different backgrounds and strengths.
And what type of background strengths can help? Like, can you give us an idea? Like for the 10 points, there's a lot of points. So can you give a little bit more information? More ideas? And you're on mute, just to let you know.
Wait.
So let's walk through an example.
I don't really know.
That's okay. So let's give 3 points for Dinda for answering the first third of the answer. So thanks for that, Dinda. Appreciate it. I think I saw another hand. Who was that, Erin? Do you remember?
Ava.
Okay, go for it, Ava.
I think the One Health approach can help prevent a pandemic because, like Dinda said, all these people from different backgrounds can each contribute to different assets of a pandemic and help address each of those assets. So, for example, medical doctors need to help treat the patients with COVID, for example, and veterinarians need, if animals are infected, they need to ensure that those animals cannot spread the virus to humans and dispose of the animals correctly. And there's all sorts of different people that can come together and address different aspects in the pandemic as a whole.
Nice. Yeah, great. 7 points for you, Ava. Anybody have anything else to add there? I think that was pretty good. Okay. Bonus point 15. Bonus question 15 points. If you thought that one was complicated, let's dive into this. And this you have to be creative for. So I feel like we all kind of know each other. Let's like just throw out the biggest ideas that you got for this one. Ready? For 15 points. What can you do this week to promote One Health efforts in your community?
Ava.
This is sort of as the global community, I suppose, but I work as a youth ambassador for a branch of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, specifically EUFMD, which is the European Commission for Foot and Mouth Disease. But as that ambassador, I create social media videos that try to raise awareness on all One Health topics, because that organization's goal is really to not just focus on foot and mouth disease, but focus as One Health as a whole to help address global issues.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing that on social media. Tag One Health Lessons so that we're aware of what you do. I think that'd be fun. Any other ideas? Okay, so a question for you. Oh, Savas, please.
Yeah, we could just invite different experts in STEM and just, present their job to the students. So that's the most basic idea, and it's necessary for every school. I don't know if you have it where you're from.
Yeah, like career days and talks and things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you be asking, say, like if an engineer came to your school, what type of question would you ask them that would have a One Health mindset?
How does he work with other experts? Like which is the connection between the jobs?
Yeah, I like that question. Yeah, anybody else? So let's do 15 points to Ava. Let's do 5 points to Savas. Those were excellent answers. And here's some ideas that I came up with. You can certainly teach your family and friends about what you learned today. You can also talk to your science teacher and have that person reach out to us and see if we can't, One Health Lessons can then teach your whole class. And that way there's more people involved. How about starting like a One Health club at your school? There was actually a One Health club starting in a high school in Hong Kong just last month. So that is possible. How about creating a community project? Or I know Ava was talking about social media. With One Health Lessons, we do have contests. The next contest will happen in March. So just, tune into the social media with One Health Lessons and you'll find out more info. We also have a pen pal program. So if your teacher, your science teacher is interested in One Health, after somebody from One Health Lessons comes and teaches virtually the lesson, and they want to work with another classroom on the other side of the planet to think about how to get One Health promotion in their communities, we can set that up with the pen pal program. And then also International One Health Day is November 3rd each year. Earth Day is April 22nd each year. And then January is One Health Awareness Month. So you can do things to celebrate One Health and promote the awareness, but also have that awareness lead to action, right? It's just one thing to have people talk about this, but it's a whole nother thing to see people actually take that One Health approach seriously and work in a collaborative way. So with that, congratulations. Erin, who is the winner?
The winner is Ava with 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 54 points.
54 points. Holy cow. Great job, Ava. Thank you.
Second is Savas with 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 with 25 points.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope you all learned something today. I hope you don't forget this lesson, because as I said at the very start, you don't have to be interested in science or STEM in general to have this information be like consequential for your life. Like, as long as you're a human being on the planet today, this is important information. So it'd be great to be invited to your school to talk. But the most important thing is for you to remember what you learned, and you can share this knowledge with your classmates and your friends and your family. So thanks for all attending. And it's really wonderful to see such a global classroom here happen today. So thanks again, everybody.